JD Vance was interviewed by Theo Vaughn, and there were a couple of really good clips that came out of it. Let's watch.
I gotta ask you.
Okay.
We have you here. Right. Elon just hit the airwaves today. Bring it up, dude.
Oh, man.
The missile is in the cannon.
Okay. Wow.
Elon Musk, time to drop the really big bomb, right? And I thought this was going to be on Iran.
So it's funny. I haven't even seen.
Right?
I haven't even seen this one.
But he goes, at real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Nice signature from a South African DJT.
Man. Well, so just so your audience is aware, when is this going to air? Like tomorrow or 2 days from now?
45 minutes. It's airing now, dude. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
no.
Presumably, when this comes out, people are going to know more about this than even I do, because
I just learned about
this. Kind of happened on the plane when I was coming on down here. Okay,
I agree.
Look,
this is new.
Here's my basic reaction to like all this stuff is look. First of all, absolutely not. Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong with Jeffrey Epstein. Like, the guy is whatever the Democrats and the media says about him. That's totally BS. Here's my basic read on it. First of all, I'm the vice president to President Trump. My loyalties are always going to be with the president. And I think that Elon, he's an incredible entrepreneur. He's actually done, I think Doge was really good. This sort of effort to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in our country is really good. And look, man, I'm always going to be loyal to the president, and I hope that eventually Elon kind of comes back into the fold. Maybe that's not possible now because he's gone so nuclear.
Well, his feelings,
but I hope it is, man.
His feelings are hurt. Why though? Do you know why?
Yeah, I mean, so look, I think number one, so Elon's new to politics, right? So his businesses are being attacked nonstop. They're literally like firebombing some of his cars. And by the way, we're looking into a lot of this stuff. I mean, some of that stuff we're looking into is an act of terrorism at the Department of Justice, because I think it is an act of terrorism. So I think part of it is this guy got into politics and has suffered a lot for it. But I mean, and I get the frustration there, and I get the frustration that, I mean, look, Congress, you got this spending bill. But the main purpose of the bill is not actually spending or cutting spending, though it does cut a lot of spending. The main purpose of the bill is to prevent the biggest tax increase. But I understand, like, it's a good bill. It's not a perfect bill. Like the process in DC, if you're a business leader, you probably get frustrated with that process because it's more, bureaucratic. It's more slow moving.
Yeah.
So I think there's just some frustrations there. But I really, man, I think it's a huge mistake for him to go after the president like that. And I think that if he and the president are in some blood feud, most importantly, it's going to be bad for the country. But I don't think it's going to be good for Elon either.
But Elon, like, did Doge, first of all, my first thought was that it's a ruse, right? Because there's a lot of times where the media will put out a ruse, or they'll use somebody like, I think the Diddy thing is a ruse. Like, it's like, hey, like, diverse community, stay busy with this while we like move all these chess pieces, right? Sometimes that's what I feel like it is. And maybe I'm like a pervert or whatever, sorry, or weird guy, sorry. But this has nothing to do with that. But I'm not a pervert.
Maybe
it's interesting he's saying that, because he's saying that the Diddy stuff is a distraction from what this administration is doing to the vice president. Understand the point he's trying to make there. He's trying to say, like, this current administration is maybe potentially distracting. He's saying it's the media, but it means like the admin.
You're a weird guy. You're not a pervert. I think you're a good dude.
I appreciate that, dude. So do you think it was, so obviously it was the bill. This is where it's happened. Something about the bill made him upset.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, again, I think he looked at the bill. He didn't like it. And I think it's a good bill. But again, there are things you can criticize about it. Like the president would be very open and say, this is not a perfect bill.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump doesn't get to write the bills, right? Congress has to write the bills. And you got to work with them to try to get something that is as good as possible.
Okay.
So here's what I'll say about the bill. Number one, prevents the biggest tax increase in American history.
It prevents it?
Prevents it. Because taxes are going to go up on everybody in a really big way at the end of 2025, because the old tax law expires at the end of 2025. So you're going to hit a big tax increase. We're trying to prevent that from happening. We're also trying to do stuff. Okay, so you got a lot of people working long overtime hours in this economy. We inherited bad inflation from Joe Biden, so no tax on overtime, no tax on tips. Right? We're in Bob Ritchie. We're in Kid Rock's great restaurant. His servers would not have to pay taxes on the hard-earned tips that they get when they're busting their ass doing a good job. So when working for Kid Rock, man, that's hard work, right? So I think that it's a good bill and it does a lot of good for the American people. But like, look, Elon's entitled to his opinion. I'm not saying he has to agree with the bill or agree with everything that I'm saying. I just think it's a huge mistake for the world's wealthiest man. I think one of the most transformational entrepreneurs ever, that's Elon, to be at this war with the world's most powerful man, who I think is doing more to save the country than anybody. I mean, I'm 40 years old, anybody in my lifetime. You think about it. It's a guy who, not even a year ago, nearly took a bullet in the process of campaigning, went back on the horse the next day. And if you look, obviously I'm biased, but you look at what we've done on the border, you look at what we've done with trade, fighting back against a generation of theft of the American dream, which is what the president's trade policies are starting to do. I just think you got to have some respect for him and say, look, yeah, we don't have to agree on every issue. I'm talking about if you're Elon Musk, you don't have to agree with us on every issue, but is this war actually in the interest of the country? I don't think so. So hopefully Elon figures it out, comes back into the fold. I know the president, for a couple days, I'll tell you, just, I don't want to reveal too many confidences, but, was getting a little frustrated, feeling like some of the criticisms were unfair coming from Elon. But I think has been very restrained because the president doesn't think that he needs to be in a blood feud with Elon Musk. And I actually think if Elon chilled out a little bit, everything would be fine.
It would help. Well, Elon also tweeted that he thought that in the second half of this year that there would be the Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of this year. Now, who knows what could cause a recession in the second half of this year? It could be a buildup of our entire just history of being alive. But he's saying this. So it seems like, and this is just me guessing, and I don't know Mr. Musk. I never met Mr. Musk. One time he fed my buddy spaghetti at a party, though, dude. My buddy, people were raging and shit.
Your buddy couldn't feed himself the spaghetti?
Well, my buddy said, he offered my buddy some spaghetti, and my buddy said, yeah, I'd like to have some. And then instead,
but only if you feed it to me?
But instead of getting him a plate of spaghetti, he made him some and put it in his mouth, dude.
Does your buddy know Frederick Douglass?
My buddy, I'll say this. My buddy actually is a friend of FDR. Or no.
That's a different.
Sorry, of shit.
Frederick.
I don't know. God, dude.
Okay.
Ruin this shit, dude. Dude, civics, man. Chill out. But he said that he thinks but do you think that he just thinks that there's too many, that it's not a fair bill for the people? Do you think Elon Musk is for the people?
I mean, I think that he's making a mistake in going after the president.
Okay.
Yeah, I think his heart is in the right place, man.
Okay.
I do. Like, I think he got into this for the right reasons. I think he's frustrated. I think he's an emotional guy. Honestly, I'm a very emotional guy.
Yeah.
Like it's the president is it's interesting because if you read the media reports, you wouldn't necessarily see this. He's not like quick to temper. Like he's not one of these guys who flies off the handle. That's a little bit more what I'm like, honestly.
Oh, he's
and
smooth.
I think he's smooth, man. He's stoic.
His
and
blood
I think
pressure's 007, dude. That is.
I don't know if that's good, but,
I mean, but it's still,
but yeah, I get what you're saying.
But it is where it is.
But I think I think Elon means the
Glazed.
best, but I think he's making a mistake.
Yeah, got it.
That's my view.
So Elon was putting in a lot. Was Elon doing it for free all that time? He was
doing it for free. Yeah,
doing it for free.
He was doing it for free. I mean, he doesn't need money, right? That's the one thing Elon does not need.
So was he? I wonder if he was expecting anything from Trump and they just couldn't figure it out. I don't know. I'm just curious about it. I'm kind of like, you start to see how all this stuff kind of works, and just like it's like.
Yeah, I really do think he's disappointed about the bill. He's he disagrees with some of the things that were in there. He's an emotional guy. Look, it happens to everybody. I've flown off the handle way worse than Elon Musk did in the last 24 hours.
Oh yeah.
But my hope is comes back, says, look, made some mistakes. Didn't mean to say everything.
My controversial opinion here that's going to piss off a lot of people is that this kind of chummy rapport, this kind of back and forth coming from Theo Vaughn creates more potentially valuable journalism that could come afterwards than a million different pre-canned responses that you hear from the likes of JD Vance from talking to Dana Fash on CNN. He quite literally is, if you listen to the way he's navigating through this conversation, like, yeah, he glazes Trump for sure. And he even glazes JD Vance. He's not attacking him. But in the process, he's disarming him and asking him some fairly valid questions about, I mean, from the dumb guy's perspective, for sure. But like, he literally asked, like, so what do you think is the alternative? You think Elon wanted something out of him? The way that a normal media person would ask this question to JD Vance in a super contentious environment would be, was there quid pro quo happening between the president and Elon Musk? That is what he's asking him. But he's asking him this question in a way where it's like, oh, we're just bros. Like he's doing it in a charming and disarming way. And there's more to it. The reason why I'm saying that is because I think it's interesting because there's the Israel side of this conversation as well.
Let's smooth it out and let's all be friends because, again, like I care about the country, and I think the country's better off if under the president's leadership, Elon's helping us out as opposed to fighting the administration. I don't want him to fight the administration. I know the president doesn't want that, but here we are.
Yeah. He just tweeted a little bit ago that he felt like 80% of the, what was that? About a third party or something?
The negative side of this, the negative consequence of this, however, is that you end up, I'm not going to say he's platforming JD Vance because, like, that's the vice president, okay? But he is humanizing JD Vance. And the vice president is not human, especially JD Vance. That is the negative consequence of that. I would never be like, he's platforming the vice president. No, the vice president is platforming Theo Vaughn. It doesn't work that way.
Oh, sorry. Never mind. Okay. Then so it's just a
lot
regular
of tweets today.
Are you saying that Theo is in fact a genius pretending to be an idiot to obtain more info? I want to say he's a genius, but I definitely do think he plays up the dumb guy aesthetic. But I think he's a very good conversationalist. Like he is
just a regular day for Elon. So yeah, he's obviously, I mean, he's definitely he gets a bit rogue. Why don't we have?
Oh wait, this is interesting.
Pull it up. Let's see it.
This
let's
post
take a
is
gander.
from an account you muted. I'm curious. Who did you mute?
Ian Miles Raw.
Who is that guy?
Is that yours? It's one of your producers.
Ian Mealis Shong. Oh, it said Trump should be impeached and JD Vance should replace him. Dude, that's one vote.
Oh my God. See, this is what I'm talking about. This stuff is
What are you talking about? Campaigning?
This stuff is just not helpful. Again.
Yeah. Oh, Twitter is definitely.
And here's look. My first loyalty is to my family, obviously, to the Constitution, but politics is a place where people stab each other in the back.
Yeah.
And you can't get anything done unless you're all on the same team and you're actually committed to getting stuff done together. I just think like the idea that the president should be impeached is, I'm sorry, it's insane. It's totally insane.
Yeah, unless it's a
President is doing
Democrat.
a good job. And you can look, you're free to disagree with him, right? Everybody has a First Amendment right.
Are you free to disagree with Trump ever?
Yeah,
Like, do you
of
feel
course.
like you can?
Of course. I mean, the way that I put it is,
broke. Of
if I'm
course.
disagreeing with the president, then it is my job.
Ask him what you
obviously, to
disagreed
provide
with
the
him
president
on.
honest
Ask him
counsel.
what you disagreed with him on. Come
Like,
on.
He doesn't need me to be a doormat. He needs me to actually say what I think about an issue. But when the president makes a decision, man, he's the general. And when the general makes a decision, everybody's got to go and execute that order. And that's kind of how I think about my job, really, is to be a good ally and a good friend, provide honest counsel to the president, but also when a decision's made, you go out and get it done.
Does he listen to many people or does he listen to just one or two?
He listens to a ton of people. It's one of the more interesting things about his leadership style is if he's got a big decision to make, he talks to everybody.
Got it.
And I think it's why he's like in touch with normal people is because he doesn't just talk to like congressmen or people with a lot of money. He tries to talk to everybody. Like I've seen him ask the gardener at Mar-a-Lago what he thinks about a particular issue. I've seen him ask the people who work in the kitchen at the White House what they think about an issue. He's constantly trying to understand what other people are thinking.
Oh, I saw him ask a Scottish Terrier what kind of cakes they like, you know? So, yeah, I agree with you. He's definitely always absorbing kind of information.
He is. Yeah.
Was Doge helpful?
It was. Yeah, it was. And I mean, look, Doge continues within the White House and within the executive of the country. I mean, look, there's a lot of ways in which we are wasting the American people's money.
Yeah.
Sometimes spending it on crazy stuff. Sometimes spending it on like actually counterproductive stuff. I think Doge has saved already.
Yeah, I mean, he ain't wrong. Someone in the show said he ain't wrong. The president takes policy prescriptions from television and movies. Yeah, you're right. He did do that. He does do that. Insane to consider, but unfortunately, the truth.
At least 170, maybe $200 billion. Hopefully it's going to save more. But yeah, I think it was
that's
very
so
worthwhile.
much money. How
That's
could
a ton
you?
of money.
How do they not? How would you not even notice that? If that much money,
There's so much I could tell you about this. Okay, so one of the crazy things we all figured out like first week or so we're in the White House, okay, is
Okay, now we're entirely outside of Theo Vance's scope of knowledge. It's moved completely beyond anything that he knew about anything. So now it's open season for JD Vance to just fly. And this is where the conversation turns into a net negative.
there was a payment that should be stopped because the president signed an executive order to stop a payment. And this is like day one of the White House. We're like, okay, how do we stop this payment? Because somebody's trying to make this payment. And nobody knew where like the computer was that actually wired the money from the U.S. taxpayer to this entity.
God.
So, dude, the
Yeah, of course he's lying. It's JD Vance. He's the vice president. He's been lying from the jump. But in the beginning, at the very least, there's like ways in which he was asking. Like, if he followed up the Trump question that he had, like, oh, Trump and I have disagreements all the time. If he were to then be like, oh yeah, what'd you guys disagree on, dude? Something like that, then it would have been instructive. It would have been informative. His response or his lack of response to a question like that would be informative. But he didn't do that.
amount of waste and the amount
So at that point, it just turns into glaze.
of just grift in the federal government was off the charts. It's still it's getting better, but there's still a lot more I think we can find.
Who was getting it? I don't know. I don't know one person that was getting something extra. I don't think.
Well,
or unless everybody was slurping.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were slurping, man. You look at what. So, for example, there are all these humanitarian programs that we have where we send money for people, for medicine, for food.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but like I think like what I thought before I got in the government, what most Americans think is okay. So we send $100,000 to this group to buy food for like poor kids in Africa. Okay. And what actually happens is it's not $100,000 that go to the food for the poor kids in Africa.
Right.
That the NGO, the non-government organization that gets that money, contracts it out to somebody else.
Right. So
And
there's
then
The thing that I think, the worst thing I can say about this is that now it is officially the exact same as CNN. And maybe even worse because CNN doesn't at least like directly chummy up and cozy up to JD Vance and humanize JD Vance. But the neutrality and asking a question and then, just taking in whatever answer the vice president gives is exactly what you see in mainstream news. Like then it turns into like uncritical glazing. I don't think that Theo Vance is equipped enough to handle the counter narratives that JD Vance is pushing here by being like, oh no, it's just like they sold a lot of they actually cut spending. Doge was so successful, it cut spending by billions. That's bull. But Theo Vance doesn't know it's bull. But the reality is CNN would not also turn around and say that's bull.
they
Middleman.
subcontracted out something.
There's a
There's like
middleman.
3 or 4 middlemen.
Oh.
And what, Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State, he's a very good friend. What he told me is that his best estimate after he had his team look at it is that 88 cents of every dollar was actually being collected by middlemen.
No
So
way.
every dollar we were spending humanitarian assistance, 12 cents was actually making it to people who needed it. That's crazy. So there's a lot of waste, man, a lot of crazy stuff.
What I find really interesting about this is, and we're going to talk about it here. I tweeted about it as well. What I find really interesting about this is that like Theo Vance has let his position be known that he believes that there's a genocide going on and we have to put an end to it, right? And obviously, as someone who believes this, he also chooses to ask this question directly to JD Vance. Now, what's interesting about it is, and I tweeted this earlier, I said, a lot of people ask me what the Democrats get wrong about their independent media strategy. There are a million issues beyond messaging, but on the media front, a Democrat would never entertain having this conversation with someone like myself. Like the notion that the vice president at the time, Kamala Harris, would come on my show while the Democrats were conducting a genocidal campaign in Gaza as a belligerent, and then to have a conversation, have a back and forth like this on those grounds is unthinkable. No, that would never happen. You see what I'm saying? That would never happen. So I always wonder, it's like, what is it that these guys, the Republicans, like, they just don't care? I guess they do not give a shit. You know what I mean? They do not care. They will go on a show where someone will tell them to their face, like, hey, there's a genocide going on. To be fair, Theo is not you. He's obviously not an aggressive advocate for Palestine. No, he is. Brother, for as big of a platform that he has, are you kidding me? Listen, if Joe Rogan, if it's impactful when Joe Rogan decides he is anti-trans women in sports, okay? And we have an issue with that because of how impactful that is. You have to do that when someone with a platform that's closely resembling Joe Rogan's is unconditionally pro-Palestine. I'm sorry. You don't get to have it both ways. You can't on the one hand say Joe Rogan is so impactful when he's doing reactionary politics and then turn around and be like, and Theo Vaughn is not impactful at all when he's saying that, like, there's a genocide going on in Gaza. It doesn't work that way. It's either they're both incredibly and immensely impactful in political discourse, which I think they are. Horrible take, to be honest, King. This is simply incorrect. You're right. He should not be. Dude, you were talking about a guy who had not only Bernie Sanders, but Gabor Mate on his broadcast. Okay? Hasan is right, chat. We must never doubt our prophet. Exactly. Never doubt your prophet. Aggressive advocacy is insane coping glaze. Aggressive in comparison to a media ecosystem that rarely ever has saying that there is a genocide going on at that level of prominence. Not aggressive in comparison to your Discord circuit, okay? Not aggressive in comparison to what you see from someone like myself. Yes, I know if all you see as far as like pro-Palestinian advocacy is members of your Discord server and the federal agents that are also tuning you up in the Discord server and the Discord moderators that you're inside of your splinter Discord circle that is looking for any opportunity to get feet pics, you know, those guys are real radicals. I'll show you what a real radical looks like. You know, we make memes. We make radical memes in our Discord splinter server. You know, I know. That's great, man. But we're talking about a dude who's like a fairly prominent media personality.
And on like the Gaza thing, just sort of, you know, chat about that for a little bit.
Never back down and only message what you believe clearly. That way you can show other leftists how much more left you are than them. Yeah. No, I always do that. I'm leftier than everybody else.
I mean, I'm like a human being. So I look at this stuff, I see these videos, I see the pictures, and it's very heartbreaking.
Wait, oh, okay. So here's where the Israel stuff starts. Let's hear what he had to say.
For like regular person on the street, I'm like, well, if this is the company, you know, because you see videos of like horrific stuff online.
Sure. Very sad stuff.
And you're like, well, if this is the company we're hiring, how do I know that I might not be walking down the street and just a sniper bullet could hit me from them, you know?
So that is...
To be really honest with you.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. And I think the answer to that question is the only real protection that we have against that is that we've got to, you know, elect the right people, and we've got to make sure that our government doesn't do crazy stuff. Because, I mean, look, any of this information can be misused. Like our government has your social security number, okay? Yeah. Using that information, the government could spy on you. The government could give your information over to an illegal alien to start a fake account in your name. And that, by the way, happens. I had a friend of mine who had an illegal alien steal his social security number. And when he went to the IRS to complain about it, they wouldn't give him information on the person who was stealing his stuff. And by the way, that's what we're trying to do, is make it so the IRS can talk to the Department of Homeland Security. But the only real protection against this stuff, I think, is to have a government that actually protects the rights of its citizens. And, you know, we should all be worried about our privacy being invaded by the government. I think we should be just as worried about private corporations as we should be the government. I think, You know,
For sure.
everybody can invade our privacy, but I don't, let me put it this way. I don't think that the solution to that problem is to like pretend that the government doesn't already have this information. It just does.
Right.
You got to make sure it doesn't misuse it.
Got it.
And that's my view, at least, is we got to live in reality, and the government's already got this information. We just need to make sure they don't misuse it. And on like the Gaza thing, just sort of, you know, chat about that for a little bit. I mean, I'm like a human being. So I look at
Cap, you are not like a human being. You are not even like a human being. Also, notice how he didn't say, I'm a human being. He said, I'm something of a human being myself. I'm something of organic matter that you could maybe perhaps consider to be a human being. Maybe more worm than human being. Who knows? Human adjacent.
this stuff. I see these videos, I see the pictures, and it's very heartbreaking. And you know, just since you brought it up, like what we're trying to do here is try to solve two problems here. Okay. So on the one hand, you've got innocent people, innocent Palestinians, and innocent Israeli hostages, by the way, who are like caught up in this terrible violence that's happening as we speak. Okay. And we're trying to get as much aid and as much support into people as humanly possible. That's like one thing that's going on. The other side is Israel's attacked by this terrible terrorist organization. I think people sometimes forget that, right? They forget like the thing that kicked this off is that we had this terrible terrorist attack, and you had a lot of innocent Israeli civilians die in that terrorist attack. And so I think what we're trying to do in the Trump administration with that situation
Yeah, every part of this is a goddamn lie. It's pissing me off.
is to get to a peaceful resolution. And I think the peaceful resolution looks something like this. You've got to give Israel confidence that Hamas is never going to attack them and kill a bunch of civilians. And then you've got to get as much aid and support into these innocent.
Oh, God, it's such Jesus Christ. Well, the White House lifted the freeze on 2,000-pound bomb shipments to Israel. Bombs are being used to strike displaced Palestinians sheltering makeshift tents, and approved over $12.5 billion in military assistance since taking office in January 2025. Podcaster Theo Vance tells Vice President JD Vance that it appears the United States prioritizes Israel's interests over America's and raises U.S. complicity in the Gaza genocide. Where is the part? Where is this part? I want to see this part. Is it coming up, or did I skip this part? Oh, it's coming up. Okay.
Palestinians as possible, because in some ways they're caught in the middle of this thing too. One thing that I don't love about the whole.
Just so you know, nobody. Wait, what? Whoa. What did this guy say? Just so you know, no one calls for the death of gay people and the subjugation of women than your heroes. You are a pretend progressive, says Doom Cow Cock. Not cock for like Kahan, right? There's no way. That just happens to be. Like, this is not a Kahanist. I'm more left than you, Hasan. No, this person's not a leftist. He's concern trolling. He's a virtue signaling, chatter. He does not give a single about this. Are you stupid? First of all, it's a classic take from dickheads who are like, oh, this is really bad for your cause. A person who does not give a about your cause and is actually standing in opposition towards your cause. Secondly, the idea that this is a good gotcha is so idiotic, because there is no pink washing an ethnic cleansing campaign, because an ethnic cleansing campaign kills more gay people and more women than any kind of hypothetical subjugation of women and gay people that you are ascribing. Okay, yeah, Doom Cow Cock feels like he's this could literally be like a Nazi who knows a lot about Kahana's movements and is like talking about the red heifer, or who knows. Could be a Nazi making fun of Kahana's. See, also, the irony is, in terms of subjugation of women and subjugation of gay people, one, Israeli society not so fond of women or gay people either. Two, the Israeli government is actively killing women and gay people in Gaza right now and in the West Bank too. And three, the Israeli government has officially announced their partnership, officially announced their partnership with ISIS affiliate groups in an effort to actually create chaos at the point of aid distribution in Gaza. And if you know anything about ISIS, They are far worse in terms of their analysis of what to do with women and subjugating women and gay people. And last but not least, all of the Gulf nations in the region that you never seem to raise concern about because they are pro-Israel are actively doing worse things in terms of subjugation, and they're not even under fire. So the idea that like one party is worse for gay people and women over the other, and therefore it's actually appropriate to genocide the entire population is already a stupid one. But having said that, it's not like the other party is good for women or gay people either. You don't care about this. You don't care about this issue at all. You just thought this was a quick gotcha. Because you're a moron.
Israel-Palestinian debate is, I think it kind of degrades our humanity a little bit, because I've seen people on the left, mostly on the left, who will say, well, they'll completely ignore that Israel, like all these innocent Israelis were killed in this terrorist attack. And then you have some people, usually on the right, who will completely ignore that there are like kids who are caught up in this violence.
What is this?
And I think it's why the president has been, I call him the president of peace.
Ethan Klein is criticizing Hasan Piker by sharing a statement from the fake Israeli aid agency Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Come get your freedom fighters. There ain't no way he posted a Gaza Humanitarian Foundation post thinking that it was just like an actual Palestinian group. Is he this stupid? The answer is yes. Okay? The answer is yes. He might be that stupid. I think he saw the name Gaza, okay, and he thought this was a Palestinian group criticizing Hamas, and he ate the bait. By the way, this is, if you were wondering why the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is an American fake aid agency that is in direct violation of human rights and direct violation of humanitarian law, an Israeli and American aid agency, as a matter of fact, a fake agency that actually weaponizes aid and has, for the past week, shot at and killed numerous Palestinians that are desperately trying to get food in this aid trap that they have designed. If you're wondering why it's called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, it is for the dumbest person you know, Ethan Klein in this circumstance, the absolute stupidest person you've ever encountered in your entire life. Worst stream in a while. What? Why? We can unban this person. This new Holocaust defender, Ethan Klein here, defender of the live stream child Holocaust that is unfolding. It's the dumbest guy you know that will go, oh, it says Gaza on it. It's probably a Palestinian charity. That's it. That's the reason why he posted it. And that's precisely the reason why these guys basically named themselves Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Now, of course, ironically enough, not only, no, he most likely knows. No, I think he's actually dumber than you think. He is actually dumber than you think. I think he saw Gaza Humanitarian and thought, oh, this is like a Palestinian charity calling out Hamas. I genuinely think so. Is he malicious? Yes, absolutely. Now, ironically enough, not only is the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation using aid as a method of further starving the Palestinians and to trap them and to kill them, as it is owned and operated by belligerent occupiers, it has been routinely criticized by every international human rights organization that already exists in the Gaza Strip, that wants to operate within the Gaza Strip, that are being denied operations from the Israeli government. But also, the aid that is being looted or disrupted at the point of delivery is being disrupted by Israeli-backed ISIS affiliate gangs in the region. He knows in being evil and not stupid. No, he's stupid. He's evil, but he's also stupid. I think you guys genuinely are thinking that he's doing this in a malicious manner. Yes, it is malicious.
Right now, it
is certainly malicious. But the reason why he used the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and the release that they put out there, the statement that they put out there, is because he's a an actual moron, an actual Dave Rubin style moron. Think Dave Rubin. We have evil stupid. Exactly. Like as dumb as Dave Rubin himself, that he saw Gaza, he saw humanitarian and thought, oh, this is another Palestinian group that's like on Hamas. I'm going to use this now. Anyway, we're moving on and getting back to JD Vance. defending this administration doing a genocide.
It's why he cares about solving this problem, because the longer this goes on, the more suffering, the more death. So we're trying to solve it as much as we can.
Thank you for liking and reposting my TikTok. I just started my fan channel on TikTok and YouTube, and your repost doing wonder for my account. Hell yeah.
It's not easy.
Do you have a say in it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, well, the president's obviously the person who makes the final decision all the time. But yeah, I mean, we certainly, I think I'm one of the few people that he's talking to constantly. We're constantly, we're talking to the Israeli government. We're talking to people in the Arab world. We're talking to people in the Palestinian territories. Like, we're constantly engaging in diplomacy.
Huh.
I mean, what
about Palestinians, man? What about people in the Palestinian territories? He didn't say Hamas.
Crazy things, dude, is this guy is a very dear friend of the president's. He's our special envoy to the Middle East. Steve Witkoff. He's a Jewish guy, very pro-Israel. He's done more to try to bring this conflict to a close than anybody. And you sometimes have people who say that they're pro-Israel who attack Steve for not being pro-Israel enough. And I think it's totally bogus. Like, I see this guy operate every single day. He actually is. Like, he's a Jewish guy who believes in the purpose of the state of Israel. He also is a guy with a heart who's trying to prevent the killing.
Yeah.
And I think there's...
Yeah, right. Get the out of here. He is not preventing the killing at all. JD Vance worried about the optics of not being pro-Israel enough. Yeah, but even this conversation that he's having, think about how different this conversation is than where a conversation like this would take place a year ago, year and a half ago. Like, he has to literally massage the idea that, oh, they want to stop an end. They want to put an end to this killing. We see how bad it is. Like, I never in my life thought the Republicans would be lying in the same way that the Biden admin is lying. Like, think about it. The Republicans are trying to act like they're also pro-Palestine too. That's crazy. Under normal circumstances, a year ago, 2 years ago, Republicans would be sitting there being like, what do you mean? They're dogs. Like, they're rapist, barbaric, monstrous terrorists. They all need to be cleansed from the land. Hello? Israel is the most moral democracy on the planet. Excuse me. Am Israel high? Like, that's crazy. Yeah, now he's gotten to, we've worked tirelessly. We're working tirelessly around the clock for a ceasefire. That's where he's at.
It's just like, when I talk about this whole debate has caused us to lose our humanity, I think of the people who are constantly going after Steve, because this is a guy, he's a father. He lost one of his...
Yeah, Steve Witkoff. He is a liar. Also, it's not Steve Witkoff. It's Donald Trump. It's JD Vance. The reality of the matter is Steve Witkoff is simply an envoy, okay? He doesn't make decisions on his own. He's just simply conveying the decisions that Donald Trump has made.
His own children because of an overdose, and he loves people. He believes in the value of human life, and he's doing a really good job. And he's one of the important people in the presidency here too. Yeah,
it seems like I've heard of Mr. Witkoff, but I never met him. But I
good
would
dude.
Yeah.
You should have him.
I think the tough thing just as a regular person, right? It's like we're seeing all these videos of people like picking up pieces of their children, and like,
of course,
it's the sickest thing I think it's ever been televised. Basically, if you consider watching something on your phone being televised,
sad, man.
It feels like a massacre, and it feels like, you know.
Oh, it's very sad, man. Is it, dude? Well, you're something of a human, right? Like, you're kind of like a human. Oh, it's very sad.
You know, I've called it a genocide. Other people have different thoughts about it, and that's fine, right? And I don't need anybody to share the same thoughts, or you two. But I think where it gets scary is that we give, you know, we're complicit in it because we help fund like military stuff, you know, and that's where as like a regular guy, you're like, well, I'm paying these taxes and they're going towards this, like, but you can't do anything, you know, like you can talk, you know, but it's like, you can't, I don't understand how it becomes like tough for people. Like sometimes it feels like we look out for the interests of Israel before we look out for the interests of America.
So let me say a couple things. So number one, like, I think you're a great dude, so we don't always have to agree on everything. Do I think do I think it's a genocide? No. And here's the reason why I don't think it's a genocide, because I don't think that the Israelis are purposely trying to go in and murder every Palestinian. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they got hit hard, and I think they're...
Hold on. Sorry, I gotta hear this again. Yes, Vivian's here, but I'm gonna have her in the room in a second.
For a guy, you're like, well, I'm paying these taxes and they're going towards this, like, but you can't do anything, you know, like you can talk, you know, but it's like, you can't, I don't understand how it becomes like tough for people. Like sometimes it feels like we look out for the interests of Israel before we look out for the interests of America.
So let me say a couple things. So number one, like, I think you're a great dude.
I think Theo here, especially hitting the, sometimes it feels like we're looking out for the interests of interests of Israel before we're looking out for the interests of America. That's a great way. I think that's a great way to present it, especially to a right-wing audience. Okay? It's a great way to present it to a right-wing audience, his own audience.
Dude, so we don't always have to agree on everything. Do I think do I think it's a genocide? No. And here's the reason why I don't think it's a genocide.
Do I think it's a genocide? No.
Israelis are purposely trying to go in and murder every Palestinian. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they got hit hard, and I think they're trying to, like, you know, sort of destroy this terrorist organization, and war is hell, and that is true. I also think it's true, man. I mean, I've seen people on my side of the political aisle. I'm a Republican. You know that, but your audience may not, who like will see these videos of these innocent Palestinian kids and say, oh, well, they had it coming to them. No. Like, if you have a soul, your heart should break when you see a little kid who's suffering, which is why we have the policy that we have, which is we're trying to eliminate the conflict, eliminate the source of the conflict, so that we can actually bring some peace and some.
I think this is a horrible answer. I don't think this is a good answer at all from JD Vance. I mean, obviously it's not a good answer. They're never going to give a good answer. They're genocidal monsters. But having said that, I don't think this is the type of this is the audience that's going to. I don't think this is the audience that's going to respond to it positively. I mean, Theo, stand strong in your convictions about genocide of the Israeli lobby. Proud of you for addressing the situation head on. JD is a politician and a lawyer through and through. He can lie and talk you out of anything you know to be true. Don't let him.
Some humanitarian assistance into people, and that's my basic view. And yeah, the president's interesting. He's a pro-Israel guy.
Yeah,
and he also recognizes that to bring any conflict to a close, you've got to talk to everybody. Yeah. And so, we've been attacked. I've been attacked. The president's been attacked for being too interested in diplomacy. And you ask, like, what can I do? I think that what people should demand is that if our tax dollars are going to something, we should be actively trying to fix it. Okay, that's kind of the way that I think about it.
What do you mean? I know it's limp-dicked. I know JD Vance's response is limp-dicked. He's gaslighting. His job here is to gaslight. Like, that's, of course. Let's see how he responds.
And what happened with the Biden administration, man, it's crazy. They were spending so much money all over the world, they weren't engaged in diplomacy at all. So
he's moving on. And then he just he neutralizes and then he moves on to talk about Ukraine.
I mean, we sent $300 billion to Ukraine, for example, and you never had the president of the United States actually trying to force a diplomatic settlement. I mean, you talk about bodies all over the ground. Dude.
Vance tries to mollify Theo Vaughn on Gaza by telling him that the U.S. is diligently working to eliminate the conflict and bring some peace, which in practice means continuing to fuel the annihilation warfare until Israel's maximalist goals are achieved.
It's the sickest thing I think it's ever been televised, basically, if you consider watching something on your phone being televised.
Sad, man.
It feels like a massacre, and it feels like, I've called it a genocide. Other people have different thoughts about it, and that's fine, right? And I don't need anybody to share the same thoughts, or you two. But I think where it gets scary is that we give...
Which is we're trying to...
we just watched the whole thing. Yeah, this is we're working tirelessly and ceaselessly around the clock for a ceasefire moment from the admin. We are responsible for what our taxpayer dollars do. Is beyond that. Like, you're talking about us as American citizens, and you're right about that. But these guys are active participants. Remember, they are the American admin. Just like the previous American admin that came before this one, they are directly responsible for this genocide. They are an active participant, an active belligerent in this ethnic cleansing campaign.
Dude, the Russia-Ukraine thing is the most vicious.
Yeah, he just moves on. Ugh, gross. He just moves on to Russia-Ukraine. Yeah. At least Theo Vaughn brought up the issue, but he's also not equipped to knowledgeably push back on Vance's obfuscation, which is a perk of appearing on these casual conversation podcasts. Yeah. That's the other side of this story, which is that Theo Vaughn is not Theo Vaughn is not going to be able to respond to this and be like, well, how do you say that when isn't that exactly what the previous administration said? You know what I mean? Or even with Ukraine, a knowledgeable person in the situation would then turn around and be like, okay, you think there's immense harm being done. Russia invaded Ukraine. How do you turn around and justify saying to the leader of a nation that has been invaded, that is our proxy in this conflict, that they haven't been thankful enough? Like, how is that solving the issue? How is that actually a matter of diplomacy? How is that the diplomatic approach undermining our proxy that one could even argue we have pushed into taking and making choices that perhaps were not favorable for their long-term standing? Anyway, but I'm glad that comments weren't eating what they were saying. Bro, this is highly suspicious. They're doing crazy PR work to erase the situation. You should have asked Vance why the Epstein's list isn't out. Like, even what the Cash Patel was on Rogan today simultaneously, they got JD to be ready with a PR campaign in front of the mic. The Epstein list stuff is such catnip for the hogs. The Cash Patel conversation with Joe Rogan, I think, did more damage to the admin than it actually helped the admin. And it's like it's perfect. It's a perfect f- up for them.